A man who's responsible for the death of 5 Bible college students has been deemed unfit for trial. A Laramie church elder is saying he's the one being discriminated against in a lawsuit with the University of Wyoming over free speech rights. And a group of young fiddlers rocks out in the Capitol Rotunda. Bringing you these stories and more from Wyoming's largest news organization, I'm Wendy Kaur for Cowboy State Daily. A man who's responsible for the death of 5 Bible college students has been deemed unfit for trial. 58-year-old Arthur Nelson of Tennessee is accused of being high on meth while driving the wrong way on I-80, triggering a chain reaction crash in January that killed 5 young people from Arkansas. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland said a Wyoming district court judge has ruled that Nelson is not mentally fit to face prosecution.
His defense attorney back in May called for a mental health evaluation. She said he wasn't tracking his prosecution, and the court ordered that evaluation. The conclusion is that he is not fit enough to face his prosecution, to stand up to a trial.
Nelson's being committed to a Wyoming mental health facility where state employees will try to make him well enough to face the 5 counts of aggravated vehicular homicide. National headlines about widespread heat waves are alarming, but the reality isn't. Cowboy State Daily's energy reporter Kevin Kilo talked to meteorologist Don Day, who calls any headlines about unprecedented heat this summer media misinformation.
If you look at the year-to-date figures, with the exception of some parts of Texas, we've been either at the average or slightly below average. And again, this doesn't mean that there isn't a gradual warming trend, but it is to say that there's a lot of hype. And he said he's never seen it, as far as the media reporting on these things, never seen it quite so bad where what they're reporting and what is actually happening, that there's a disconnect there.
Kilo reports that a 2018 peer-reviewed climate study actually found that the mortality risk from extreme heat events in the United States has declined since 1970. Residents in Kemmerer still have questions about the planned nuclear plant coming to southwest Wyoming, but as Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports, businesses there are being proactive, preparing for an influx of jobs and a boost to their economy.
It's really helping to revitalize this town, which before the power plant came along, they had been looking at, maybe our town is going to die.
Jean said the residents are hoping the upcoming economic boost might just bring their community back from the brink. Federal agencies plan to kill all the rainbow trout in a popular drainage just north of Yellowstone Park and replace them with native cutthroats. But wildlife officials say they want to hear from the public first. The Forest Service and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service are considering wiping out rainbow trout in Montana's Buffalo Creek drainage just north of Yellowstone because the non-native fish are crowding out the native Yellowstone cutthroat trout. Yellowstone cutthroat was the dominant species in the area until the early 1900s, but since then have suffered from overfishing and competition with non-native species such as rainbow trout. A possible alternative to the rainbow genocide on Buffalo Creek might be to slowly restock Yellowstone cutthroat trout over the next 10 years or so, but no decisions will be made until after a public hearing on the matter. A Laramie church elder is saying he is the one being discriminated against in a lawsuit with the University of Wyoming over free speech rights. Todd Schmidt lost presentation privileges at the University of Wyoming for a year after university leadership made Schmidt cover a transgender student's name on a sign he brought to the student union on December 2nd. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland has been following the story.
Schmidt retorted saying that harassment is a high legal bar and his actions don't rise to that level, according to him, and that it is in the public's interest to block the school's actions because the public has an interest in speech freedoms.
Schmidt is accusing the officials of trumping up a fake harassment claim to censor his speech based on his views on transgender issues. And with a twinkle in his eye and a kick in his step, Bob Matthews led a group of young fiddlers through the Charlie Daniels Country Classic The Devil Went Down to Georgia in the Wyoming Capitol Rotunda on Saturday morning. Cowboy State Daily's Leo Wolfson captured the group's catchy tunes on video.
The Fiddler Orchestra is just an opportunity for Bob to share his love of fiddle music with Wyoming and the world.
Wolfson said it was a fitting send-off to the 127th Cheyenne Frontier Days, which wrapped up over the weekend. And that's a look at today's news. You can read about all of these stories and more on CowboyStateDaily.com, Wyoming's largest and most read news source. I'm Wendy Kaur for Cowboy State Daily.